Young millionaire gets rejected by a poor girl he loved. 2 days later, he discovered a shocking truth that left him no choice. Benjamin Hart's story began in a way that many would envy. Born to a family of modest means, his parents worked long hours to provide for him, instilling in him an unshakable drive to succeed. As a teenager, he had big dreams, often staying up late in his small bedroom sketching out business ideas in a tattered notebook. By the time he hit 29, he had turned one of those ideas into a thriving tech company that catapulted him into the ranks of the ultra-wealthy. He was celebrated in magazines, photographed at glamorous events, and named one of the most eligible bachelors in the country. People admired his sharp mind and magnetic charisma, but to those who knew him best, there was something missing in Benjamin's life. Beneath the polished image of success was a man deeply unfulfilled. Benjamin spent his days in boardrooms and his nights at glittering galas, yet he felt a growing emptiness that no business deal or accolade could fill. He had everything he'd ever thought he wanted, except someone to share it with. In another corner of the world, far removed from the dazzling lights of his high-profile life, lived Lily Monroe. Lily grew up in a small town surrounded by rolling hills and tight-knit neighbors. Her parents were educators who instilled in her a love for learning and a belief that life's greatest rewards came not from material wealth but from the impact you had on others. Lily became a teacher, following in her parents' footsteps. Her classroom wasn't just a place where children learned their ABCs. It was a safe haven. She made sure that every child felt valued, going above and beyond to help those who struggled. Whether it was staying after school to tutor a child in math or organizing weekend field trips that many families couldn't otherwise afford, Lily's dedication was unrelenting. She was the kind of person people turned to in times of need. Her warmth and genuine care made her a pillar in her community. When the local shelter was short on volunteers, Lily was the first to step in. When a struggling family couldn't afford school supplies, Lily quietly bought them herself. She didn't do these things for recognition. She did them because she believed it was simply the right thing to do. Their paths crossed one evening at a charity gala in the city, an event to raise funds for underprivileged schools. Benjamin was there as a prominent donor, his presence another way to bolster his public image. Lily had been invited as a representative of the schools benefiting from the event, a chance to thank the donors personally. In a room filled with expensive suits and shallow conversations, Benjamin heard something that made him stop. It wasn't the clink of champagne glasses or the murmurs of business deals. It was Lily's laugh. It wasn't loud, but it carried a warmth and sincerity that stood out in a sea of rehearsed smiles. Curious, Benjamin approached her. Their first interaction was brief. He complimented the speech she had just given about her students, and she thanked him with a polite smile. But there was something about her that lingered in his mind. Unlike the people he usually met, Lily wasn't trying to impress anyone. She wasn't captivated by his fame or fortune. Instead, she seemed more interested in talking about the challenges facing her students than in making small talk. After that night, Benjamin found himself thinking about Lily often. He admired her passion, her unwavering commitment to her students, and the way she seemed so content with her life, despite its simplicity. He began visiting her town under the guise of philanthropy, but it wasn't long before he was openly pursuing her. He would bring donations for her school, stay for her weekend community events, and even join her at the shelter to help distribute meals. The more he got to know her, the more he realized how vastly different their lives were. Benjamin's life was a blur of meetings, deadlines, and luxurious getaways. Lily's was slow and purposeful, filled with meaningful connections and quiet acts of kindness. But these differences only drew him closer to her. He was captivated by the way she lit up when she talked about her students or the way her eyes softened when she spoke to an elderly volunteer at the shelter. One particular moment stayed with him. It was a cold winter evening, and Benjamin had come to see her at the shelter. A young boy had arrived with no coat, and Lily immediately handed him her own, wrapping it around him with a smile. Benjamin watched as the boy's mother hugged Lily with tears in her eyes, thanking her for her kindness. That night, Benjamin realized something profound. For all his wealth and success, He had never seen someone give so selflessly without expecting anything in return. It was a kind of richness he had never known but deeply wanted to be part of. As their bond grew, Lily opened up about her life, but Benjamin couldn't shake the feeling that she was holding something back. She often spoke of the future with uncertainty, brushing off his questions about what she wanted for herself. When he asked about her dreams, she would smile and talk about her students or her community, but never about herself. Despite this, Benjamin was certain of one thing. Lily had brought a kind of joy into his life that he had never experienced before, and he was determined to be a part of hers, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Benjamin and Lily's connection grew stronger with every passing week. He pursued her with a determination that was unshakable, though not in a way that overwhelmed her. He didn't rely on grand gestures or extravagant displays of wealth. Instead, he focused on the small things, the things he knew mattered most to her. On one of his visits, Benjamin brought her a bouquet of wildflowers, not roses or exotic blooms, but the kind that grew near her favorite park. When she asked why he chose them, he simply said, "Because they remind me of you, real, beautiful, and full of life." It was moments like these that began to soften her reservations. They spent afternoons walking through the quiet streets of her town, stopping to greet shop owners or sit on a park bench overlooking the pond. It was during these walks that Benjamin shared parts of himself he rarely revealed to anyone else. He told her about his childhood, the long hours his parents worked, and the loneliness he often felt growing up. Lily listened intently, her eyes filled with understanding. For Lily, these moments with Benjamin were both wonderful and terrifying. She found herself falling for him in a way she hadn't thought possible. He wasn't just the millionaire everyone admired. He was kind, thoughtful, and deeply human. But the closer they became, the more a storm brewed within her. A mix of joy, fear, and guilt. As their bond deepened, Benjamin would ask her about her dreams. She spoke about wanting to create a literacy program for children in her community, to give them opportunities she knew they might not otherwise have. Benjamin listened, inspired by her passion. He began to picture a future where he could support her dreams and build something meaningful together. But Lily's heart was heavy. Every time he spoke of the future, she felt the weight of a truth she hadn't shared. She wanted to imagine a life with him, a life filled with love and shared purpose. But the reality of her situation loomed over her like a shadow she couldn't escape. One evening, Benjamin took Lily to a quiet dinner at a small restaurant he had rented out just for them. It wasn't an extravagant gesture, but an effort to create a space where they could be alone, away from the world. They laughed and talked for hours, sharing stories and dreams. As the night went on, Benjamin reached across the table, taking her hands in his. "Lily," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "I don't think I've ever felt this way about anyone before. I don't want to keep imagining my life without you in it. I want you to be part of every moment, every decision, every dream." Lily's smile faltered, and her eyes welled with tears. She pulled her hands away and looked down, as though searching for the right words. "Ben," she began, her voice trembling, "you deserve someone who can share your future fully. I can't be that person." Her words hit him like a blow. He leaned forward, searching her face for answers. "What are you talking about?" "Lily, I don't understand." But she didn't respond. Instead, she stood and walked to the window, her back to him, her shoulders shaking as though holding back a storm of emotions. "Please," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "If there's something wrong, just tell me. Whatever it is, we can face it together." She turned to him then, her face streaked with tears. "You don't get it, Benjamin. I can't do this. I can't let you tie yourself to someone like me." Before he could press further, she left the room, leaving Benjamin sitting there, stunned and heartbroken. The days that followed were torturous for him. He replayed her words over and over in his mind, trying to make sense of them. She had seemed so genuine, so open. Why was she pulling away now? He reached out to her, but she avoided him, retreating into her own world. He tried to move forward, to throw himself into his work, but nothing felt right without her. She had become more than someone he loved. She had become part of who he was. Desperate for answers, Benjamin finally confided in one of Lily's closest friends, Emily. At first, Emily hesitated, torn between her loyalty to Lily and the pain she saw in Benjamin's eyes. But eventually, she gave in, unable to keep the secret any longer. "She doesn't want you to know," Emily said, her voice heavy with regret. "But I think you deserve the truth. Lily, she's sick. Serious. The doctors don't know how long she has, but she didn't want to burden you with it." Benjamin sat in silence, the weight of Emily's words sinking in. It all made sense now, the hesitation, the cryptic rejection, the way Lily had pulled away even as they grew closer. But instead of pushing him away, the truth only solidified his resolve. He knew he couldn't let her face this alone. No matter how much time they had, he wanted to be by her side, to share whatever moments they could. That night, he made a decision. He would find her, and he would tell her the one thing she needed to hear, that his love for her wasn't conditional on how much time they had. It was unconditional, unshakable, and real. Benjamin couldn't sleep the night he learned the truth. Emily's words echoed in his mind, unraveling every moment he'd shared with Lily, every hesitation, every tear she'd held back. It wasn't that she didn't love him. She loved him so deeply that she was willing to push him away to spare him pain. But what she hadn't realized was that her absence was the greatest pain he could endure. Lily had been diagnosed with a rare, aggressive illness, one that gave her little time and even fewer guarantees. She hadn't told him because she didn't want to burden him, to tie him to a life that might be filled with sorrow instead of joy. But Benjamin wasn't about to let her make that decision for him. The next morning, Benjamin made up his mind. He didn't need to think about it, didn't need to question whether he was making the right choice. He loved her, and that love didn't come with conditions. It didn't falter in the face of difficulty. If anything, it only grew stronger. With information from her friend Emily, he was able to find Lily at the park, sitting on the same bench where they had shared so many quiet moments together. She was staring out at the pond, lost in thought, her face a mix of sadness and peace. For a moment, he stood there, watching her, trying to find the right words. But he realized there were no perfect words for what he needed to say. As he approached, the sound of his footsteps on the gravel path made her look up. Her eyes widened when she saw him, and for a moment, she seemed unsure whether to stay or to run. But he didn't give her the chance to decide. "You should have told me," Benjamin said, his voice calm but firm. He sat down beside her, close enough to feel the tension in her shoulders. Lily shook her head, her voice barely a whisper. "Ben, don't," he interrupted, turning to face her fully. "Don't push me away again. You don't get to decide what I can handle. Loving you is my choice." Her eyes filled with tears, and she looked down at her hands, which were clasped tightly in her lap. "I'm trying to protect you," she said, her voice trembling. "You don't understand what this will mean. The treatments, the uncertainty, watching me get worse. How can I ask that of you?" "You're not asking," he said, his tone unwavering. I'm telling you that I'm here, that I'm not going anywhere. You think I haven't thought about what this means? You think I don't know it's going to be hard? But not having you, Lily, not being by your side, that would hurt me more than anything else ever could." She turned to him then, tears streaming down her face. "Ben, I don't want to break your heart," she said, her voice cracking. "You won't," he replied softly, reaching out to take her hands in his. "My heart would break more without you in my life. So, if you think pushing me away is going to protect me, you're wrong. It's only going to hurt us both." For a long moment, she didn't respond. She just stared at him, her emotions battling behind her tearful eyes. He could see the fear, the doubt, but also the love, the deep, unshakable love she had tried so hard to hide. Finally, she nodded, her voice barely audible. "Okay," she said. "Okay. But you have to promise me something." "Anything," he said without hesitation. Promise me you'll let yourself be happy, no matter what happens. Even if it's hard, even if it hurts. Promise me you won't let this destroy you. He nodded, his grip on her hands tightening. I promise. But only if you promise me that we'll face it together. All of it. She let out a shaky breath, and for the first time in weeks, a small, genuine smile broke through her tears. It wasn't a smile of joy, but one of relief, of finally letting herself believe that maybe, just maybe, they could have something beautiful, even in the face of uncertainty. In that moment, a new chapter began for them. A chapter filled with challenges they couldn't yet imagine, but also a love that had proven itself stronger than fear. As they sat there on the bench, hands intertwined, the sun broke through the clouds, casting a golden light over the pond. It was a moment of quiet triumph, of two hearts choosing to fight for each other despite the odds. And though the road ahead would be difficult, they knew they would walk it together. Their decision to face the future together wasn't just a choice. It became a promise. And that promise was cemented on a warm spring afternoon, beneath a canopy of trees, with sunlight filtering through the leaves. Their wedding was everything Lily wanted. Small, personal, and surrounded by those who mattered most. There were no grand halls, no glittering chandeliers, and no cameras flashing for the society pages. Instead, there was a small gathering of family and friends, seated on wooden chairs adorned with simple flowers. Benjamin stood at the altar, his eyes fixed on Lily as she walked toward him, her arm linked with her father's. She wore a simple white dress that swayed gently in the breeze, and though her illness had begun to take its toll, her smile radiated a quiet strength. When she reached him, Benjamin took her hands in his voice steady as he recited the vows he had written. Lily, I choose you today and every day, no matter what lies ahead, in sickness and in health, for as long as we have, I am yours. Lily's voice faltered as she replied, her emotions spilling over. Ben, you've taught me what it means to be truly loved. I promise to love you with every moment I'm given, and to live every day with gratitude for you by my side. As they exchanged rings, there wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. Their love wasn't about grandeur or spectacle, it was about defiance. It was about choosing to embrace life even when its fragility was glaringly evident. The months that followed were a testament to the life they had chosen together. They didn't waste a single moment. Benjamin and Lily traveled to places she had always dreamed of, coastal towns with sea air that made her laugh, sprawling vineyards where they danced under the stars, and quiet mountain retreats where they watched the sunrise in each other's arms. But it wasn't just the big adventures that defined their time together. It was the smaller moments that meant the most. Evenings spent curled up on the couch, watching her favorite movies, sharing stories about their childhoods, and planning ways to make her students' lives better even from a distance. Benjamin learned to cook her favorite dishes, and Lily taught him how to find joy in the everyday. Whether it was planting flowers in their backyard or watching the birds that gathered by the pond. Through it all, Lily's resilience shone. Despite the pain and fatigue that came with her treatments, she faced each day with courage and a determination not to let her illness define her. And Benjamin? He was her anchor, steady and unwavering. He accompanied her to every doctor's appointment, sat with her through every grueling treatment, and reminded her at every turn that she was not alone. But just as they began to settle into this rhythm, life threw them a curve they hadn't anticipated. During a routine checkup, Lily discovered she was pregnant. The news was both a shock and a blessing. The doctors were cautious, warning of the risks to both Lily and the baby. But Lily's resolve was immediate and firm. "This is our child," she said to Benjamin one evening as they sat together, her hands resting protectively on her stomach. "No matter what it takes, I want to bring this baby into the world. I want them to know the love we share." Benjamin was overwhelmed with emotion. He knew the risks, knew the toll it could take on her already fragile health, but he also saw the light in her eyes, the determination, the hope. "Then we'll do it together," he said, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions within him. "Whatever it takes." The months that followed were some of the most challenging yet hopeful times in their lives. Lily's pregnancy was fraught with complications. There were hospital stays, sleepless nights, and moments when the fear of losing her was almost too much for Benjamin to bear. But Lily remained steadfast, her strength carrying them both. When their daughter was born, it was nothing short of a miracle. They named her Hope, a reflection of everything she represented, a beacon of light in their darkest days. Holding her in his arms for the first time, Benjamin felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Hope wasn't just their daughter. She was a symbol of the love that had carried them through so much. Lily, though exhausted, held Hope close, tears streaming down her face. "She's perfect," she whispered. Benjamin leaned down, his forehead resting against hers. "She's perfect because she's ours," he replied. In that moment, everything they had fought for, every sacrifice and every challenge, felt worth it. Their love had not only survived, it had created something beautiful, something enduring. Though their journey was far from over, they knew they had already achieved the greatest victory of all. They had chosen love, no matter the cost. Hope's arrival was more than just the birth of a child. It was the embodiment of everything Lily and Benjamin had fought for: their love, their resilience, their unwavering belief in the power of hope itself. From the moment she entered the world, Hope became a light that illuminated even the darkest corners of their lives. Her name was chosen not by accident but with deep intention. For Lily, Hope represented the future she would not see, a legacy of the life and love she had shared with Benjamin. For Benjamin, Hope was the reason to keep moving forward, to hold on to the lessons Lily had taught him about cherishing each moment, no matter how fleeting. In the months that followed, their lives revolved around Hope. Benjamin found himself falling into a new rhythm, one filled with late-night feedings, quiet moments cradling his daughter, and endless memories created as a family of three. Lily, though physically weakened, seemed to draw strength from these moments. Her smile, though softer, carried the same warmth that had first drawn Benjamin to her. Together, they celebrated milestones that would seem ordinary to others but were extraordinary to them. Hope's first laugh, her first attempts to reach for her parents' hands, the way she gazed at the world with wide, curious eyes. These small victories became the threads that wove their family closer together, each one a reminder of the beauty they had created despite the challenges they faced. But the inevitable came sooner than anyone had hoped. Lily's illness progressed, and it became clear that her time was running out. As the days grew shorter, Benjamin did everything he could to make her comfortable, to surround her with the love she had so selflessly given to others. Lily was also surrounded by the people who loved her most. Friends, family, former students. Each came to say goodbye, sharing stories of how she had touched their lives. Benjamin stayed by her side, holding her hand as Hope played quietly nearby, too young to understand the weight of what was happening. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the room was bathed in a warm, golden light, Lily turned to Benjamin. Her voice was faint but steady as she said, "Promise me, Ben. Promise me you'll give Hope the same love we've shared. That you'll teach her to be kind, to be brave, and to never be afraid to love, even when it's hard." Benjamin's eyes filled with tears as he nodded, his voice thick with emotion. "I promise, Lily. She'll know everything you've taught me. About love, about courage, about living a life that matters." With those words, Lily closed her eyes, her face peaceful as she took her final breath. She was gone, but the room felt full, not of sadness, but of the love she had left behind. For the first few minutes, Benjamin could not speak, cry, or even scream for help as he felt a surge of emotions flow through him. He just sat there, holding her hands tightly as he looked blankly at the ground, cold tears streaming down his eyes. In the days and weeks that followed, Benjamin's grief was overwhelming. There were moments when the weight of her absence felt unbearable, when the silence of their home pressed down on him like a heavy fog. But every time he looked at Hope, he found a reason to keep going. Hope became his anchor, a reminder of everything Lily had stood for. As she grew, Benjamin poured himself into raising her with the same kindness and strength that Lily had embodied. He taught her to see the beauty in the everyday, to help those in need, and to face life's challenges with grace and determination. Every milestone in Hope's life carried echoes of Lily. On her first day of school, Benjamin packed her lunch with a handwritten note, just as Lily had done for her students. When Hope brought home a stray kitten, insisting they care for it, Benjamin smiled, hearing Lily's voice in her actions. And when Hope asked about her mother, Benjamin told her everything. He shared stories of Lily's laughter, her unwavering dedication to helping others, and the love she had for her family. He didn't shy away from the difficult parts, the illness, the heartbreak, but he made sure Hope understood one thing above all. Her mother's love had been a force that nothing, not even death, could diminish. Years passed, and Hope grew into a young woman who carried her mother's spirit in every step she took. Benjamin watched with pride as she pursued her own dreams, knowing that Lily's legacy lived on through her. And though he missed Lily every day, he found solace in the life they had built together and the daughter they had brought into the world. As Benjamin sat on the bench at the park where he and Lily had shared so many moments, he looked out at the pond, now watching Hope play with friends nearby. The sunlight danced on the water, just as it had on the day he had told Lily he wouldn't leave her. In that moment, he felt not just sadness, but gratitude. Gratitude for the years he had with Lily, for the love that had changed him, and for the daughter who was a living reminder that their love had been real, profound, and enduring. Benjamin smiled, whispering softly, "We did it, Lily. We kept our promise." And as the wind rustled the trees, it was as if the world itself acknowledged the enduring power of their love. Benjamin Hart's story isn't about wealth, status, or achievements. It isn't about the accolades he earned or the empire he built. At its core, his story is about love. A love that wasn't defined by years but by its depth, its strength, and its ability to endure even in the face of loss. Lily Monroe taught Benjamin the most important lesson of his life. That love is not about holding on to someone forever, but cherishing the moments you have, no matter how fleeting. It is about choosing to open your heart, even when you know it might one day break. Because in those moments, in that choice, lies the true essence of living. For Benjamin, life after Lily wasn't easy. There were days when the weight of her absence threatened to overwhelm him. But he carried on, not out of obligation, but because of the love they had shared. That love wasn't something that disappeared with her passing. It remained, woven into every memory, every lesson, and every choice he made for their daughter, Hope. Hope grew up knowing her mother, not through presence but through the stories Benjamin told her. Stories of a woman who cared deeply for others, who gave her time and energy to brighten the lives of everyone around her. Stories of how she laughed, how she dreamed, and how she loved. As Hope grew older, she often asked Benjamin about the most difficult choice he ever made. And Benjamin would always answer the same way. "Loving your mother wasn't difficult," he would say. "The hard part was letting her go. But it was worth every second, every tear, because she gave me a life filled with meaning." The lessons Lily left behind became the foundation of Hope's life. She carried her mother's spirit with her in the way she treated others, in the dreams she pursued, and in the kindness she showed. To Benjamin, watching Hope thrive was proof that Lily's legacy would never fade. And yet, there were moments of reflection. Moments when Benjamin would find himself drawn back to the park bench where he and Lily had shared their most pivotal conversations. One such day came years later, on a bright summer afternoon. Benjamin stood by the pond, his hands resting gently on the back of the bench. Beside him stood Hope, now a young woman with her mother's quiet strength and her father's determination. Together, they watched the water ripple under the soft breeze, the sunlight dancing across its surface. "Do you ever think she's still here?" Hope asked, her voice soft but steady. Benjamin smiled, his gaze never leaving the water. "I don't think she ever left," he said. "She's here in the wind, in the way the light touches the water, and most of all, in you. Every time you smile, every time you do something kind, I see her." Hope leaned her head on her father's shoulder, and for a moment, they stood in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. For Benjamin, it was a moment of peace, a reminder that while life may take away, it also gives. It gave him hope, and it gave him memories that would never fade. As they turned to leave, Benjamin looked back at the bench one last time, hearing Lily's laughter in his mind as clearly as if she were still there. It wasn't a sound that brought sadness anymore. It was one that brought comfort, a reminder of a life well lived and a love that had been worth everything. He whispered softly, "Thank you, Lily, for teaching me how to love, how to live, and how to carry on." And as he walked away with his daughter by his side, the world around him felt brighter. Now, I ask you, would you have the courage to fight for love, knowing it would break your heart? Would you risk the pain, the uncertainty, for the chance to experience something so profound, so transformative, that it changes you forever? Lily and Benjamin's story isn't just a tale of love and loss. It's a reminder of what it means to live fully, to embrace life with open arms, even when it hurts. Because in the end, true love is not measured by how long it lasts, but by the mark it leaves behind. It is the quiet moments of connection, the sacrifices made without question, and the memories that echo long after the people we love are gone. And sometimes, that love is so strong that it doesn't just survive. It carries us forward, shaping who we are and how we choose to live the rest of our lives. Thank you for being part of this journey, for stepping into the lives of Benjamin and Lily and experiencing their story. A story of love, resilience, and the beauty found in fleeting moments. If this story moved you, if it made you reflect on your own life, or reminded you of someone you've loved and lost, then I invite you to stay connected with us. Stories like this aren't just meant to be heard. They're meant to be shared, to spark conversations, and to remind us of the strength that lives within each of us. By subscribing to our channel, you'll join a community of listeners who value these moments of connection. Stories that bring tears to our eyes, warmth to our hearts, and sometimes, even a new perspective on what truly matters in life. Don't let this be the last time we share a story together. Hit that subscribe button and make sure to tap the bell icon so you're notified whenever we release a new video. Each story we tell is crafted to remind you of the power of love, the resilience of the human spirit, and the twists that make life unforgettable. Your support doesn't just help us create more content. It keeps these stories alive, reaching more people who might need a reminder that they are not alone in their experiences. Share this video with someone who might find comfort in its message, or someone who could use a moment of reflection in their busy day. And finally, thank you for watching Soulful Twists. It's because of viewers like you that we are able to tell these stories. Until next time, take care of yourselves, cherish your loved ones, and remember, life's greatest moments aren't always the longest, but they are always the ones that stay with us forever.